Hana sat by the window of her small apartment, watching the twin suns set over New Seoul. The sky turned purple and orange, just like it did every evening. She had lived here her whole life, 26 years on this colony world, and she never thought she would leave. But tomorrow everything would change. The message had come 3 days ago. It was marked with the official seal of the Galactic Confederation Council. When she opened it, her hands were shaking. The words were simple and cold. She was chosen for a diplomatic marriage. She would marry Thexmal, a high official from the Vrin Empire. This marriage would secure a trade agreement between humanity and the Vrin. It would bring prosperity to Earth and all human colonies. She was supposed to feel honored. That was what the council said. That was what her supervisor said. That was what everyone said. But Hana only felt empty. Her mother cried when Hana told her. Her father stayed silent for a long time, then hugged her tight. Her younger brother asked if she could say no. Hana smiled and lied. She told him it was her choice. She told him she wanted to help humanity. But the truth was different. When the council chose you for something like this, you could not refuse. Not if you wanted your family to stay safe. Not if you wanted to keep your life. The transport ship arrived early in the morning. It was massive, gleaming white and silver, with the Confederation symbol on its side. Hana carried only one small bag. They told her everything else would be provided. She did not need to bring her old life with her. At the spaceport, a woman in a gray uniform checked her documents. The woman smiled, but her eyes were tired. She had done this many times before. How many other humans had she sent away to marry strangers? How many others had stood where Hana stood now, trying not to cry? Inside the ship, everything was clean and bright. The corridors were wide and white. There were other passengers, mostly aliens from different species. They looked at Hana with curious eyes. Some whispered to each other. She knew what they were thinking. Another human, another political tool. Her cabin was small but comfortable. There was a bed, a desk, and a screen on the wall showing the stars outside. Hana sat on the bed and stared at nothing. The engines hummed beneath her feet. The ship was moving now, pulling away from New Seoul, pulling her away from everything she knew. On the third day of the journey, someone knocked on her door. Hana opened it to find an old man standing there. He was human, maybe 70 years old, with gray hair and deep lines on his face. His eyes looked sad and knowing. "I am Day," he said quietly. "I was assigned to be your cultural advisor. I will help you understand the Vrin customs and prepare you for your new life." Hana let him in. Day sat down slowly, like his bones hurt. He looked at her for a long moment before speaking. "You do not want this," he said. It was not a question. Hana felt tears burn her eyes. Nobody had said that to her before. Everyone pretended this was an honor. Everyone pretended she was lucky. "No," she whispered. "I do not want this," Day nodded. "I know, I am sorry. I have seen many like you, sent away to keep the peace, sent away to keep the alliance strong. Did any of them find happiness?" Hana asked. Day was quiet for a long time. "Some found purpose," he finally said. "That is not the same as happiness, but it is something." Over the next few days, Day taught her about the Vrin. They were tall beings with blue-gray skin and 4 arms. They valued order and efficiency above all else. They did not understand human emotions very well. To them, marriage was a contract, nothing more. Love was not expected or even desired. Hana learned the basic words in their language. She learned how to bow in their way. She learned what foods they ate and what music they listened to. But none of it felt real. It felt like she was preparing for a play, learning lines for a character she would never truly become. One evening, she found Day standing in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. She stood beside him, and they watched the darkness together. "Can I ask you something?" Hana said. "Yes. Why did you take this job, helping people like me? Does it not make you sad?" Day's jaw tightened. His hands, resting on the railing, trembled slightly. "It does," he admitted. "But I owe a debt. A long time ago, someone helped me when I needed it. Now I try to help others. It is all I can do." There was something in his voice, something heavy and painful. Hana wanted to ask more, but Day turned away. "We will arrive at Meridian Point tomorrow," he said. "You should rest. The ceremony will be long and tiring." That night, Hana could not sleep. She lay in her bed, thinking about her family, thinking about her friends, thinking about the life she would never have. She thought about growing old on New Sol. She thought about falling in love with someone who actually knew her. She thought about having children who would play under those purple and orange skies. All of that was gone now. When she finally slept, she dreamed of a man whispering to her. His face was scarred and tired. His eyes were filled with warning. He said words she could not quite hear, but they felt important. They felt like a secret she needed to know. She woke up before the ship's alarm sounded. Through her window she could see Meridian Point Station. It was enormous, a city floating in space covered in lights. Thousands of beings lived and worked there. It was neutral ground where all the species of the Confederation met to do business. Somewhere in that station, Thexmal was waiting. Her future husband, a stranger who would own her life. Hana got dressed in the formal clothes they had given her. She looked at herself in the mirror. She looked like a bride. She looked like a diplomat. She looked like someone she did not recognize. Day came to escort her off the ship. As they walked through the corridors, he put a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Remember," he said softly, "no matter what happens, you are still human. Do not let them take that from you." Hana did not understand what he meant, not yet. But she would remember those words. In the days and months to come, she would remember. Meridian Point Station was bigger than Hana had imagined. The docking bay alone was the size of a city block. Aliens of every kind moved through the corridors. Some walked on two legs like humans. Others floated or crawled or moved in ways she could not describe. The air smelled strange, like metal and something sweet she could not name. Day led her through the crowds. People stared at her. She wore traditional human wedding clothes mixed with Vryn symbols. The dress was white and silver, with long sleeves that covered her arms. Around her neck was a blue crystal, the Vryn symbol of binding. It felt cold against her skin. They arrived at a large hall near the center of the station. Inside, hundreds of beings were already gathered. Most were Vryn officials and their families. There were also ambassadors from other species, all dressed in their finest clothes. At the front of the hall stood Thexmal. He was tall even for a Vryn. His blue-gray skin was marked with silver patterns that showed his high rank. His forearms were folded in the traditional pose of greeting. His face had no expression. His eyes, dark and large, looked at Hana like she was a piece of furniture being delivered. An officiant stepped forward. She was Vryn, old and important. She began speaking in the Confederation Common Language, a mix of different tongues that everyone learned. The words were formal and empty. She talked about alliance and prosperity. She talked about duty and honor. She did not talk about love. She did not talk about happiness. Hana repeated the words she was told to say. Her voice sounded far away, like it belonged to someone else. Thexmal repeated his words with the same flat tone. When it was done, they pressed their hands together. His skin was cool and smooth. The crystal around her neck glowed once, then went dark. They were married now. The reception was held in an even larger hall. There were tables filled with food from a dozen different worlds. Musicians played strange instruments that made sounds both beautiful and unsettling. Guests moved between tables, talking business and politics. Nobody seemed to care about the bride and groom. Hana sat at the main table beside Thexmal. He spoke to other Vryn officials, discussing trade routes and resource allocation. He did not look at her. He did not speak to her. After an hour, Hana felt like she might disappear and nobody would notice. She saw Day across the room, standing near the wall. He was watching her with those sad eyes. She wanted to go to him, to talk to someone who saw her as a person, but she could not leave the main table. Not yet. Then something caught her attention. Day was staring at someone else. Hana followed his gaze and saw an old human man in a service uniform. He was carrying a tray of drinks, moving between tables. His face was worn and scarred. One of his hands looked strange, like it was partly mechanical. He moved with a limp. The old worker looked up and met Hana's eyes. For just a moment, the busy room seemed to go quiet. His expression was intense, urgent. He changed his path and walked closer to the main table. When he passed behind Hana's chair, he leaned down slightly. His voice was barely a whisper. "War and labor did this to me," he said. The words were rushed and desperate. "Do not let them make you forget what humans are." Before Hana could turn around, before she could ask what he meant, 2 station security officers appeared. They were not human. They grabbed the old worker by his arms and pulled him away. He did not resist. He just looked back at Hana one more time, his eyes full of warning. What was that? Thexmal asked. He had finally noticed her. I do not know, Hana said quietly. A worker. He said something strange. Thexmal made a sound that might have been a sigh. Human workers often struggle with their assignments. Do not concern yourself. They are being managed properly. The way he said it made Hana's skin crawl. Managed properly? Like the old man was a machine that needed fixing. The rest of the reception passed in a blur. Hana smiled when she was supposed to smile. She nodded when people congratulated her. But her mind kept going back to those words. War and labor did this to me. What did it mean? Why did he risk punishment to tell her? That night she was taken to new quarters on the station. These rooms would be her home until they traveled to the Vryn homeworld in 2 days. Thexmal had separate quarters. He told her he would see her at the morning meal. Then he left. Hana sat on the bed in her new rooms. Everything was expensive and comfortable. There were soft lights and climate control and a view of the stars. But it felt like a cage. A beautiful, comfortable cage. Someone knocked on the door. It was Day. He looked worried. Are you well? He asked. Did you see that worker? Hana asked instead of answering. The one who spoke to me. Did you know him? Day's face became hard and closed. I saw him. Who was he? What did he mean? His name is Tay, Day said slowly. He is someone I knew a long time ago. Someone who should not be here. What did he mean about war and labor? Day looked around like he was checking if anyone could hear. Then he stepped closer and spoke very quietly. There are things about humanity's entry into the Confederation that are not taught in schools, he said. Things that were hidden. Tay was part of that. I was part of that. But I cannot tell you more. Not here, not now. It is too dangerous. Dangerous for who? Hana demanded. For you. For your family. For anyone who asks too many questions. Day put his hand on her shoulder. I know you want answers. But please, trust me. There is a time to be curious and a time to be careful. Right now you must be careful. He left before she could ask anything else. Hana stood alone in her beautiful cage, feeling more trapped than ever. She went to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth. Somewhere out there was home. And somewhere on this station was a man named Tay, who had risked everything to give her a warning. War and labor did this to me. The words echoed in her mind. She thought about how Day looked when he saw Tay. She thought about the scars on Tay's face and his mechanical hand. She thought about the way Thexmal had dismissed him so easily. Something was wrong. Something big and terrible was being hidden. And somehow Hana was part of it now. She touched the blue crystal at her neck. It was still cold. It felt like a chain. For the first time since receiving her assignment, Hana felt something other than sadness or resignation. She felt anger, and beneath that anger she felt something even stronger. She felt the need to know the truth. She did not know it yet, but that need would change everything. It would take her places she never imagined. It would show her horrors she never wanted to see. And it would reveal what humanity really was, beneath all the polite words and diplomatic smiles. But tonight, she only had questions. Questions that nobody would answer. She lay down in her expensive bed, in her comfortable cage, and dreamed again of scarred faces and desperate whispers. 6 months passed like water through fingers. Hana lived on Thesara now, the Vryn homeworld. Her new home was a tower in the capital city, high above the streets. From her window she could see the whole city spreading out below. Tall buildings of silver and blue reached toward the sky. Flying vehicles moved between them like schools of fish. Everything was clean and ordered and perfect. Everything except Hana. Her days followed the same pattern. She woke at the 6th hour. She ate breakfast alone in the dining room. She attended diplomatic meetings where she smiled and said nothing important. She had lunch with other diplomatic spouses, mostly aliens who barely spoke to her. She attended cultural events in the evening. Then she returned to her tower and slept. Thexmal lived in the same building, but she rarely saw him. He was busy with his work, managing trade agreements and resource distribution for the Vryn Empire. When they did meet, usually at formal dinners, he was polite but distant. He asked if she needed anything. He asked if her quarters were comfortable. He never asked how she felt. He never asked what she thought. After 3 months, Hana realized he did not see her as a person. She was a thing he had acquired, a diplomatic asset, a symbol of the alliance between their peoples. Nothing more. She tried to make the best of it. She studied Vrin art and history. She learned more of their language. She wrote long messages to her family on New Sol, though the responses came slowly and seemed distant. Her mother always said everything was fine. Her father always said he was proud of her. Her brother never wrote at all. She had attendants who helped her dress and prepare for events. They were Vrin, young and efficient. They treated her well, but they did not treat her like an equal. They spoke to her the way one might speak to a child or a pet. Simple words, slow explanations, patient smiles that did not reach their eyes. One evening, at a formal dinner, Hana sat beside a Vrin official named Kextar. He was old and important, covered in silver markings that showed his high rank. He drank something purple from a tall glass and talked about humanity. "Your species has been quite useful to the Confederation," he said. His tone was casual, like he was discussing the weather. "When you first joined, there were concerns. Humans are so emotional, so unpredictable, but you have adapted well." "Thank you," Hana said, because that was what she was supposed to say. "Of course, we had to make certain adjustments," Kextar continued, "certain agreements to ensure smooth integration. But that is all managed now. Your people understand their place." Something cold settled in Hana's stomach. "What do you mean by adjustments?" Kextar waved one of his four hands dismissively. "Oh, just standard protocols. Labor distribution, resource allocation. Nothing you need to concern yourself with. That is handled at much higher levels." Thexmal, sitting across the table, gave Kexatar a sharp look. The old official stopped talking and changed the subject. But Hana had seen something in that exchange. Something hidden. Later that night, alone in her quarters, Hana could not stop thinking about it. Labor distribution. That phrase reminded her of something. It reminded her of Tay, the old worker at her wedding. "War and labor did this to me." She went to her personal terminal, the computer screen built into her desk. She had access to the Confederation databases for her diplomatic work. Most of it was boring trade reports and cultural information. But maybe there was something else. She searched for information about humanity's entry into the Confederation. The official records were simple. 50 years ago, humans had been discovered by Vrin scout ships. There had been a brief conflict, the Contact War, lasting only 2 months. Humanity had been outmatched. But instead of conquest, the Vrin had offered membership in the Confederation. Humanity had accepted. Peace and prosperity had followed. But when Hana searched for specific details, she found gaps. There were references to something called the Integration Accords, but the actual documents were restricted. She found mentions of the human labor reforms, but no explanation of what they were. Everything important seemed to be hidden behind security clearances she did not have. She was about to give up when she found a file that had not been properly locked. It was a report from 30 years ago, written by a Confederation Oversight Committee. Most of it was bureaucratic language about resource management. But one paragraph caught her eye. Human labor units continue to meet productivity quotas across all assigned sectors. Mortality rates have decreased by 12% since the implementation of enhanced durability modifications. Psychological conditioning shows improvement, though some units still display resistance to long-term assignment protocols. Recommend continued monitoring and adjustment as needed. Hana read it 3 times. Labor units. Mortality rates. Psychological conditioning. These were not words used for citizens. These were words used for slaves. Her hands shook as she closed the file. She wanted to search for more, but fear stopped her. If these files were restricted, then someone might be watching who tried to access them. Someone might already know she had read that paragraph. She needed to talk to Day. She had not seen him since arriving on Thesara. He had stayed behind on Meridian Point. His job as her advisor apparently finished, but she had his contact code. She could send him a message through encrypted channels. She wrote carefully, trying to sound casual. She said she missed having someone to talk to. She said she had questions about human history. She asked if he could visit. The response came 2 days later. Just 3 words. "Not here. Dangerous." That night, Hana attended another formal event. It was a celebration of some Vrin historical victory. The room was full of officials and their spouses. Everyone smiled and drank and pretended to enjoy themselves. Hana stood by a window looking out at the city lights. She felt more alone than ever. She was surrounded by hundreds of beings, but none of them saw her. None of them cared. "You look troubled," a voice said beside her. Hana turned to see another human woman. She was older, maybe 40, with tired eyes and a forced smile. Her name was Mira, and she was married to a high-ranking official from a different species. They had met a few times at these events but never really talked. "I am fine," Hana said automatically. "No, you are not." Mira's smile faded. "I know that look. I had it too when I first arrived. The look of someone realizing this is forever." "How long have you been here?" Hana asked. 15 years. Mira sipped her drink. 15 years of diplomatic dinners and empty conversations. 15 years of being a symbol instead of a person. Does it get easier? No, you just get better at pretending. Mira looked at her carefully. "Can I give you advice? Stop asking questions. Stop looking for answers. The truth will only make you miserable. Just accept your role and find small pleasures where you can." "What if I cannot do that?" Hana whispered. Mira's expression became sad. "Then you will suffer more than you already do, trust me. I learned this the hard way." She walked away, leaving Hana alone again. That night, Hana dreamed of Tai. In her dream, he was younger and whole, without scars or mechanical parts. He stood in a gray uniform among thousands of other humans, all in the same uniform, all with the same empty expressions. They stood in rows that went on forever, working at machines she did not understand, building things for people who would never thank them. She woke up gasping, her heart pounding. It was still dark outside. She got up and went to her window, pressing her hands against the cold glass. Down below, the city glittered like a jewel. Somewhere in that city, somewhere in this empire, there were humans working. Humans like Tay. Humans who had been broken by war and labor, and nobody talked about them. Nobody saw them. They were hidden, managed, controlled. Hana made a decision then. She would find out the truth, no matter the danger, no matter the cost. She needed to know what had really happened to her people. She needed to understand what Tay had tried to warn her about. She was tired of being a symbol. She was tired of being a tool. She was tired of living in a golden cage pretending everything was fine. She was ready to become something else, something more dangerous, something that asked questions nobody wanted to answer. She did not know where this path would lead, but she knew she could not turn back now. The opportunity came 3 weeks later. There was a cultural festival in the lower districts of the capital city. Dexmal was required to attend, and as his spouse, so was Hana. It would be her first time leaving the tower since arriving on Thasara. The lower districts were different from the gleaming heights where she lived. The buildings here were older and more crowded. The streets were narrow, different species mixed together, workers and merchants and travelers. The air smelled like food and exhaust and sweat. Dexmal walked ahead of her, surrounded by security officers. Hana followed with her own guards, 2 Vryn soldiers who watched everything with cold eyes. The festival was loud and chaotic. There were performers and vendors and music. Thousands of beings filled the streets. Hana saw humans in the crowd. Not many, but some. They wore simple work clothes and kept their heads down. They moved through the festival like ghosts, there but not really present. When she tried to meet their eyes, they looked away. At one point, Thexmal stopped to speak with local officials. The security team formed a barrier around him. Hana stood nearby, watching the crowd. One of her guards moved a few steps away to speak into his communication device. This was her chance. Hana slipped sideways, moving behind a group of tall aliens. Then she ducked down a side street. Her heart pounded as she walked quickly, not running, trying to look like she belonged. Behind her, she heard shouting. Her guards had noticed. She had maybe 5 minutes before they found her. She moved deeper into the district, following something she could not explain. An instinct, a pull. She passed shops and homes and small factories. The buildings got older and more worn. The crowds got thinner. Then she saw him. Tay, the old man from her wedding. He was carrying a large container, walking with that same limp. He wore gray work clothes with no markings. He did not see her. Hana followed him, staying back far enough to not be noticed. He turned down an alley between 2 buildings. She followed. The alley led to a heavy metal door. Tay opened it with a keycard and went inside. Hana waited a moment, then tried the door. It was unlocked. She stepped into darkness. Inside was a staircase leading down. The walls were rough concrete. The only light came from weak bulbs strung along the ceiling. Hana descended carefully, hearing the sound of machines somewhere below. At the bottom of the stairs was another door. Beyond it, Hana found a large room filled with machinery. Humans worked at different stations, breaking down old equipment and sorting materials. It was a recycling facility. Everyone wore the same gray uniforms. Everyone moved with tired efficiency. Tay was at a workstation near the back. He looked up and saw her. His eyes went wide. He quickly set down his tools and walked to her, grabbing her arm. "What are you doing here?" he hissed. "You should not be here. If they find you—" "I need to understand," Hana said. "What you told me at my wedding. War and labor did this to you. What does it mean?" Tay looked around nervously. The other workers had noticed her now. They were staring. A few looked frightened. One man shook his head and turned back to his work. "Come," Tay said. He pulled her toward a small room at the side of the facility. It was a supply closet, cramped and dark. He closed the door behind them. "You need to leave," he said. "If the facility managers find you here, I will be punished. We will all be punished." "Not until you tell me the truth," Hana said. She was surprised by her own courage. "Please, I know something is wrong. I know humans are suffering, but I do not understand why. I do not understand how." Tay stared at her for a long moment. His scarred face was hard to read. Then something broke inside him. His shoulders sagged. "You really do not know," he said quietly. "They kept it from your generation, from everyone born after the reforms. Tell me," Hana whispered. Tay took a deep breath. When he spoke, his voice was hollow, like he was reciting something from memory, something he had thought about every day for decades. 50 years ago, the Vryn found Earth. There was a war. You know this part. What you do not know is how badly we lost. Our weapons were nothing compared to theirs. Our ships were destroyed in days. Millions died in the first week. Hana felt cold. This was not in the history she had learned. "We surrendered," Tay continued. "We had no choice. The Vryn could have destroyed Earth completely, but they made us an offer instead. Join the Confederation. Share our resources and labor. In exchange, they would give us technology and protection." "That is the official history," Hana said. "The official history is a lie," Tay said bitterly. "The real agreement was different. Humanity would join the Confederation, yes, but as the price, 30% of our population would serve as contract laborers. For 3 generations. 90 years. Hana's legs felt weak. 30%. That was billions of people. "We were spread across the Confederation," Tay said, "sent to work in mines and factories and construction, building their cities, making their technology, doing the jobs that were too dangerous or too difficult for their own people. We were tools, resources to be used." "But that is slavery," Hana said. "Yes." Tay's voice was flat. "But they did not call it that. They called it contract labor. They called it the integration program. They said it was necessary for humanity's development. They said it was temporary. How long have you been working?" Hana asked. 43 years. Tay showed her his mechanical hand. "I lost my real hand in a mining accident on Krell Prime. I was 20 years old. They replaced it with this and sent me back to work. I have been assigned to different facilities across the Confederation. This is my 8th posting." Hana wanted to cry, wanted to scream. Why did no one stop this? Why did no one fight? "Some tried," Tay said. "In the early years, there were protests, resistance, but the Confederation crushed them. They had hostages. Earth itself was a hostage. If we rebelled, they would punish everyone. They would cut off the technology that Earth now depended on. They would destroy the colonies. So we endured, and the people on Earth, my generation, why do we not know? The Confederation controls information," Tay explained. "They control the education systems, the media, everything. After 30 years, they implemented what they called the human labor reforms. They started hiding us, moving us to places where we would not be seen. They changed the records, erased the evidence, and they made sure that new generations of humans only learned the cleaned-up version of history. But the contract is for 3 generations, Hana said. That means my generation is almost free, Tay said. Another 7 years and our contracts expire. But there is a 2nd generation still working, and a 3rd generation starting. Children of laborers born into the system, they have 30 years left, maybe more. This cannot be legal, Hana said. The Confederation has rules, rights. Tay laughed bitterly. The Confederation makes the rules, and humans signed the agreement. Our leaders at the time, desperate and defeated, agreed to everything. The contract is legal according to Confederation law. That is why it continues. Hana leaned against the wall, feeling sick. Everything she knew was a lie. Her comfortable life, her education, her colony, all of it was built on the suffering of billions of humans who worked in darkness and silence. "What happened to you?" she asked quietly. "War and labor did this to me." "What did you mean?" Tay looked at his hands. Both of them now, the real and the mechanical. "The war broke our bodies. We lost millions. But labor broke our spirits. It changed us. Some of us became hard and strong. We had to survive. Others broke completely. Went mad, killed themselves. Many died from accidents or exhaustion or just gave up." He looked up at her and his eyes were fierce. "But some of us remained. We endured. We learned. We adapted. And we remembered. We remembered what was done to us. We remembered that we are human, even when they tried to make us forget." "Does Earth know?" Hana asked. "Do people there know about this?" "Some do, the ones in power. The ones who benefit from the arrangement. But most people? No, they believe the story they were told, that humanity joined peacefully, that we prospered, that everything is fine." Hana heard shouting outside. Her guards had found the facility. She heard heavy footsteps on the stairs. "You must go," Tay said urgently. "Tell them you got lost. Tell them anything. But do not tell them we talked. If they know I told you this, I will disappear. Many of us have disappeared for saying too much." "I cannot just leave," Hana said. "I cannot pretend I do not know." "You must," Tay said. He grabbed her shoulders. "You are in a position of privilege. You are married to a Vryn official. You have access to places and information that we do not. If you are smart, if you are careful, you can help us. But if you are discovered now, you will be removed, silenced, and nothing will change." The door burst open. 2 Vryn guards stood there, weapons drawn. They grabbed Hana and pulled her out of the closet. "We found her," one of them said into his communicator. "She is safe." Tay bowed his head and returned to his workstation. He did not look at her again. Around the facility, other human workers did the same. They became invisible again, just tools working in silence. The guards escorted Hana back to the surface. Thexamal was waiting, his face unreadable. "What were you thinking?" he asked coldly. "You could have been injured. You could have caused an incident." "I got lost," Hana said. "I am sorry. It will not happen again." But in her mind, she was making different promises. She would find a way to expose this. She would after the incident at the recycling facility. Hana was watched more closely. Her guards followed her everywhere. Thexmal assigned someone to monitor her communications. She felt the cage closing tighter around her, but knowing the truth had changed something inside her, she could not go back to pretending. She could not smile at dinners and act like everything was fine. Every time she saw a Vryn official, she thought about the humans working in darkness. Every time someone praised the peace and prosperity, she wanted to scream. She started being more careful. She stopped searching for information on her terminal. She stopped asking questions. To everyone watching, she became the perfect diplomatic spouse again. Quiet, obedient, empty. But in secret, she was learning to see differently. She noticed things she had missed before. At formal events, she saw human workers in the background, servers, cleaners, maintenance staff. They were always there, invisible to everyone else. And when she looked closely, she saw the signs, the mechanical limbs, the scars, the hollow eyes of people who had endured too much. 1 month after meeting Tai, Hana received a strange message. It came through her personal terminal, but it was not signed. The message was simple. "The garden at the 3rd hour. Come alone." She should have ignored it. It could be a trap. But something told her to trust it. The next day, at the 3rd hour, she told her guard she wanted to walk in the tower's garden. They stayed at the entrance while she walked among the trees and flowers. Sitting on a bench was Day, the old man who had been her advisor. He looked tired and worried. "Day," Hana said, sitting beside him. "How did you get here?" "I have my ways," he said quietly. "We need to talk. I know you met Tai. I know he told you about the labor contracts." "You knew," Hana said. It was not a question. "You knew all along." "Yes." Day's voice was heavy with guilt. "I was part of it. I was a laborer too many years ago. I worked for 25 years before my contract was modified. They offered me a different role, watching over humans like you, diplomatic marriages, making sure no one asked too many questions. Why did you accept? Hana asked. Because I was tired, Day said simply. Because I wanted to stop working in mines and factories. Because they said if I refused, they would extend my contract another 10 years. So I became a collaborator. I became someone who helped them hide the truth. He looked at her with those sad eyes. But when I saw how young you were, how they sent you away without telling you anything, I started to regret it. You deserve to know. All humans deserve to know. What can we do? Hana asked. How can we stop this? There is a network, Day said slowly. We call ourselves the Whispers. Former laborers who have been freed or reassigned. We stay in contact. We share information. We help each other survive. How many? Hana asked. Thousands across the Confederation. Not many compared to the millions still working. But we are organized. We are patient. And we are waiting. Waiting for what? For the right moment, Day said. The first generation's contracts expire in 7 years. That is millions of humans who will suddenly be free. The Confederation is worried about what will happen then. They should be. Because we have been preparing. He pulled out a small data chip from his pocket. This contains evidence. Records of deaths and accidents. Medical reports showing the modifications they made to our bodies. Testimony from hundreds of laborers. Everything the Confederation has tried to hide. Hana took the chip carefully. What do you want me to do with this? Keep it safe for now, Day said. You are married to a high-ranking official. You have access to secure systems. When the time comes, we will need someone like you to help us expose the truth. Someone who can get this information to the right people. Who are the right people? Anna asked. There are some members of the Confederation Council who do not know about the labor contracts, Day explained. The agreement was made by a small group and kept secret. If we can show the full council what is really happening, some of them might help us. It is a small chance, but it is the only one we have. And if they refuse to help, Day's expression became hard, then we will have to help ourselves. We have been building connections, learning skills, preparing for the possibility that we will need to fight for our freedom. Hana felt a chill. You mean rebellion? I mean survival, Day said. The Confederation thinks we are broken. They think labor and suffering destroyed us. But they are wrong. Those things made us stronger, made us smarter. We learned to work their machines. We learned to understand their technology. We learned to endure things that would destroy most species, and we learned to work together, even when they tried to keep us apart. He stood up slowly. I must go. We cannot be seen together for too long. But you are part of the Whispers now, whether you choose to be or not. Tay told others about you. Word has spread. There are people watching over you. If you need help, if you need to send a message, leave a mark on the bench where we met. 3 scratches in the shape of an arrow. Someone will come. Before Hana could respond, Day walked away. She watched him disappear into the garden. When she looked down at the data chip in her hand, it seemed to burn. That evening, she hid it in her quarters. Not in any obvious place. She pulled up a loose tile near her bathroom and placed the chip underneath. Then she put the tile back and made sure it looked normal. For the next few weeks, Hana lived in constant fear. She expected guards to burst in and search her rooms. She expected Thexmal to confront her, but nothing happened. Life continued as before. She started testing the boundaries of what she could do. At formal events, she paid attention to where the human workers went when they disappeared. She memorized faces, she learned patterns, and she started leaving small things behind. A half-eaten piece of fruit on a tray that would be taken to the kitchens. A handkerchief dropped near a cleaning station. Each item had a tiny mark on it. 3 scratches in the shape of an arrow. She did not know if anyone noticed. She did not know if the messages were received, but it made her feel less helpless. Then one day she received a response. She found a new uniform in her closet, mixed in with her other clothes. It was a simple gray worker's uniform. Hidden in the pocket was a note. Wear this. Tomorrow. 4th hour. Service entrance. Hana should have been terrified. This was insane. But she felt excited instead. Alive in a way she had not felt in months. The next day she told her guards she was feeling sick and wanted to rest. They stood outside her door, giving her privacy. She changed into the worker's uniform and looked at herself in the mirror. She looked like any other human laborer, invisible. There was a service elevator in the building that the workers used. Hannah had never taken it before. She walked to it carefully, keeping her head down. Her heart pounded. If anyone recognized her, if her guards checked on her, this would end badly. The elevator took her down to levels she had never seen. Gray corridors, harsh lighting, the smell of cleaning chemicals and recycled air. She followed the signs to the service entrance. A figure waited there in the shadows. As Hannah got closer, she saw it was a woman. Human, maybe 50 years old. She had short hair and scarred arms. "You are Hannah," the woman said. "Yes, my name is Bo. I am one of the Whispers. Day sent word that you wanted to help." Bo looked her up and down. "You do not look like much, but Day says you are brave. Is he right?" "I do not know," Hannah said honestly. "But I want to help. I want to do something." Bo smiled slightly. "Good, come with me. There is someone you need to meet." They left through the service entrance and walked through the lower districts. Bo moved quickly, taking routes that avoided cameras and security checkpoints. Hannah struggled to keep up. They arrived at an old building that looked abandoned. Inside, down more stairs, was a hidden room. Dozens of humans were there. Some were old like Tay. Others were younger. All of them had the look of people who had worked too hard for too long. Tay was there. When he saw Hannah, he nodded. "You came." "You knew about this," Hannah said. "We all knew," Tay said. "The Whispers have been watching you since your wedding. We needed to see if you could be trusted. If you would use your position to help, or if you would just enjoy your comfortable life." "And?" Hannah asked. "And you are here," Bo said. "That is answer enough." An old man stepped forward. He was perhaps 80, with white hair and eyes that had seen too much. But he stood straight and strong. "I am Kyung," he said. His voice was rough but clear. "I am one of the first. I was 20 when the war ended. I have worked for 50 years. I have seen things no one should see. I have lost friends and family. But I am still here. We are all still here." He looked around at the gathered humans. "The Confederation tried to break us. They thought labor would destroy us. But they were wrong. We endured. We survived. And now we are strong in ways they never expected. We know their systems. We understand their weaknesses. And we have connections everywhere." Kyung turned back to Hannah. "You are privileged. You are married to one of them. You live in comfort while we work in darkness. But you are also human. And that means something. That means you carry the same strength we all carry. The question is, will you use it?" Hannah looked at all the faces watching her. She thought about her comfortable cage. She thought about her family on New Sol. She thought of over the next 6 months Hannah lived 2 lives. During the day, she was the perfect diplomatic spouse. She attended dinners and cultural events. She smiled at Thexamal's colleagues. She never asked dangerous questions. But at night, she became something else. She became a spy. The Whispers had given her a specific task. She needed to access Thexamal's private files. He kept detailed records of Confederation business on his personal terminal. Somewhere in those records would be proof of the labor contracts, the original agreements, the death counts, the evidence they needed. It took 3 months before she got her chance. Thexmal had to travel to a conference on another world. He would be gone for 5 days. During that time, his home office would be empty. On the second night of his absence, Hannah waited until the tower was quiet. Then she went to his office. The door was locked with a security scanner. But the Whispers had provided her with a device, a small piece of technology that Bo said could trick most standard locks. Hannah pressed it against the scanner and waited. The light turned green. The door opened. Inside, Thexmal's office was organized and cold. There were shelves of records and artifacts from different worlds. His terminal sat on a large desk. Hannah sat down and activated it. The terminal asked for a password. Hannah typed in the code that the Whispers had given her. They had contacts everywhere, even in Vryn security systems. People who were willing to help for the right price or the right cause. The terminal unlocked. Hannah began searching through files. There were thousands of them. Trade agreements, personnel records, budget reports. She searched for anything related to humans or labor or the integration accords. Then she found it. A folder marked with high-level security clearance. Inside were documents that made her stomach turn. The original treaty between humanity and the Confederation. lists of human workers assigned to different facilities, medical reports on injuries and deaths, efficiency statistics that treated people like machines, and something worse, plans for what would happen when the first generation's contracts expired in 7 years. The Confederation was not planning to free them. They were planning to extend the contracts, new clauses, new requirements, ways to keep the labor flowing for another generation. Hana copied everything onto a data chip. Her hands shook as she worked. If someone caught her now, she would disappear. Thexmal would make sure of it. She finished copying and returned the terminal to how she found it. Then she left the office, locking the door behind her. Back in her quarters, she hid the data chip with the other one Day had given her. The next morning, she sent a message to Bo using the code the Whispers had taught her. 3 words hidden in a longer message about nothing important. The harvest is ready. 2 days later, Kyung contacted her through a secure channel. You did well, he said. This is exactly what we needed. Now we move to the next phase. What is the next phase? Hana asked. We reveal everything, Kyung said. We are going to stage simultaneous demonstrations across 12 worlds. Human workers will stop working at the same moment. We will show the Confederation that we are not slaves. We are not tools. We are people. And we will not be silent anymore. When? Hana asked. In 1 month. During the Confederation Council's annual assembly. When all the leaders are gathered on Meridian Point. We will make sure they cannot ignore us. What do you need from me? Hana asked. You will be at that assembly, Kyung said. Thexmal will attend and you will go with him. When the demonstrations begin, you will present the evidence to the council. You will speak for all of us. You will tell them what has been done to humanity. Hana felt fear wash over her. I am not a speaker. I am not a leader. You are what we have, Kyung said gently. You are human. You know the truth. And you are in a position where they have to listen to you. That is enough. The next month passed in a blur of preparation. The Whispers worked tirelessly, coordinating across vast distances. They used hidden communication channels. They spread the word among human workers on different worlds. They prepared for every possibility. Hana practiced what she would say. She memorized facts and figures. She read testimony from hundreds of workers. She learned the names of people who had died. She wanted to honor them. She wanted to make sure their suffering meant something. Finally, the day came. Hana and Thexmal traveled to Meridian Point for the council assembly. The station was crowded with delegates from every member species. Security was everywhere. The mood was formal and serious. The assembly was held in a massive chamber at the station's core. Thousands of beings filled the seats. At the center was the council itself, representatives from the founding species. The session began with reports on trade and defense. Everything was orderly and boring. Then, exactly at the midpoint of the session, something changed. A message appeared on every screen in the chamber. It showed a human man standing in front of a factory. Behind him, hundreds of other humans stood in silence. The man spoke. My name is Tae. I am a human laborer. For 43 years, I have worked for the Confederation. I have built your cities. I have mined your resources. I have done this because I was told I had no choice. But today I choose. Today we all choose. We are not slaves. We are not tools. We are human. The screen split. Now it showed 12 different locations across the Confederation. In each one, human workers stood together, refusing to work. The demonstrations were happening simultaneously, just as planned. The council chamber erupted in confusion. Delegates shouted. Security teams rushed around trying to cut the broadcasts. But the images kept appearing on every screen over and over. Hana stood up. Her heart was pounding so hard she thought it might break. She walked down to the center of the chamber carrying the data chips. I request permission to speak, she said. Her voice was small in the huge chamber. A council member, a tall being with golden skin, looked at her with irritation. This is not the time. Security will handle this disruption. This is exactly the time, Hana said, louder now. I am Hana, I am human. I am married to Vryn official Thexmal, and I have evidence that this council needs to see. She held up the data chips. These contain the truth about humanity's entry into the Confederation. They contain the secret treaty that enslaved 30% of our population. They contain records of deaths and suffering that you have hidden for 50 years. Thexmal stood up, his face hard. This human is confused. She does not understand what she is talking about. I understand perfectly. Hannah said. She looked at the council. Some of you may not know about this. The treaty was made in secret. But it is real. And it is still happening. Right now, billions of humans are working in your facilities, in your mines, in your factories. They are dying. And you do nothing. She activated one of the data chips. Holograms appeared in the chamber. Documents, images, testimony. The evidence filled the space above the council. War broke us, Hannah said. We were defeated. We were desperate. So we agreed to terms that no free people should ever agree to. We gave you our labor. We gave you our bodies. We gave you everything. She looked around at all the faces watching her. Some looked shocked. Some looked guilty. Some looked angry. But labor did something the Confederation did not expect. Hannah continued. It made us strong. It taught us to endure. It showed us what we are capable of. You thought you were using us. But you were teaching us your systems, your technology, your weaknesses. On the screens, the demonstrations continued, but now something new was happening. Human workers were not just standing still. They were showing what they had learned. On one screen, a human repaired a complex machine in seconds, using techniques that should have taken years to master. On another, a human demonstrated modifications they had made to themselves, mechanical enhancements that surpassed what the Confederation had given them. Tay appeared on the main screen again. He held up his mechanical hand. You gave me this when I lost my real hand. You thought it would make me a better tool, but I learned to improve it. I learned to make it stronger. We all learned. Every injury, every modification, every year of suffering taught us something new. He looked directly at the council. War and labor did this to me. You meant it as punishment, as control. But you made a mistake. You made us into something you should have feared. Around the chamber, more and more humans appeared. Workers who had been invisible, cleaning and serving and maintaining. They all stopped what they were doing. They all stood together. There were hundreds of them, right there in the council chamber, and nobody had even noticed them until now. Bo stepped forward from the crowd. We are everywhere, she said. In your homes. In your ships. In your factories and mines and stations. You stopped seeing us years ago. But we see you. We know you, and we are done being silent. The council chamber fell into chaos. Some delegates demanded the humans be arrested. Others called for investigation. A precious few, looked ashamed and said this needed to be addressed. The golden-skinned council member raised a hand for silence. When the noise died down, she spoke carefully. These are serious accusations. If they are true, then mistakes were made. But we cannot discuss this with disruptions and demonstrations. You have had 50 years to discuss it without disruptions. Kyung's voice came through the speakers. He appeared on screen. Old and dignified, 2 years had passed since that day in the council chamber. 2 years of investigations and hearings. 2 years of testimony from thousands of human workers. 2 years of the galaxy learning what had been hidden for so long. Hannah stood at the edge of a memorial garden on Earth. She had returned home after everything changed. The divorce from Thexmal had been quick and cold. He had tried to have her arrested for theft of classified information. But the council had protected her. Too many eyes were watching now. Too many people knew the truth. The memorial garden was new, built to honor the humans who had died during the labor contracts. There were thousands of names carved into black stone walls. Thousands more would be added as records were recovered. Each name represented a person who had suffered in silence. A person who had endured so others could pretend to be free. Hannah walked slowly along the walls reading names. She found one that made her stop. It was Tay's daughter. She had died in a mining accident 30 years ago. She had been 19. He still thinks about her every day, a voice said behind her. Hannah turned to see Tay walking toward her. He looked better than when she first met him. His face was less hollow. His eyes had some light in them. The 2 years had been kind to him in their way. I did not know he had a daughter, Hannah said quietly. Most of us lost family, Tay said. Children, parents, spouses, the work was dangerous. The conditions were harsh. People died. That was the cost of humanity's membership in the Confederation. He stood beside her, looking at his daughter's name. But their sacrifice was not wasted. Because of what they endured, we survived. Because of their strength, we are still here. They walked together through the garden. It was a beautiful day. The sky was blue and clear. Birds sang in the trees that had been planted among the memorial stones. Life continued even in the shadow of remembering. The council made its final ruling yesterday, Hana said. "Did you hear?" "I heard," Tay said. "All remaining labor contracts are void. Full citizenship rights for all humans. Reparations to be paid over the next 20 years. And a formal apology from every species that benefited from our work." "It is not enough," Hana said. "No," Tay agreed. "Nothing could be enough. But it is something. It is acknowledgement. It is change." They reached a bench and sat down. Around them, other humans walked through the garden. Some were former workers like Tay, old and scarred. Others were younger, from Hana's generation, learning the true history for the first time. Children ran between the stones, too young to understand but free in ways their grandparents had never been. "What will you do now?" Hana asked. "You are free. You can go anywhere. Do anything." Tay smiled slightly. "I have been offered positions, teaching, consulting. The Confederation suddenly realizes that we have skills they need. Skills we learned from 50 years of forced labor. They want us to work for them willingly now." "Will you?" Hana asked. "Maybe," Tay said. "But not yet. First I want to rest. I want to sit in the sun. I want to do nothing for a while." "I have earned that," Hana nodded. She understood. She felt the same exhaustion. The past 2 years had been a constant battle. Testifying at hearings, organizing demonstrations, helping coordinate the Whisper's efforts across the Confederation. She was tired, but there was still work to do. Bo approached them, walking with purpose. She looked energized, alive in a way Hana had not seen before. "There you are," she said. "The ceremony is about to start." "They are waiting for you." Hana stood up. Today was important. The Confederation was formally establishing what they called the Human Accord Commission. It would be an independent body with the power to investigate exploitation across the Confederation. Not just of humans, but of any species. The commission would make sure what happened to humanity never happened again. Hana had been asked to lead it. Along with Kyung, Tay, Bo, and several others from the Whispers. They would have resources. They would have authority. They would have the chance to make real change. The ceremony was held in the center of the garden. A stage had been built, decorated with flags from Earth and all human colonies. Thousands of people gathered to watch, humans and aliens alike. The whole galaxy was watching through broadcasts. Kyung stood at the podium first. He looked proud and strong despite his age. When he spoke, his voice carried across the garden. 50 years ago, humanity was defeated in war, he said. We were broken and desperate. We agreed to terms that no free people should accept. We gave our labor. We gave our lives. We did this so that our species could survive. He paused, looking out at the crowd. For 50 years we worked in darkness. We suffered in silence. The Confederation used us and then tried to hide us. They wanted the benefits of our labor without acknowledging what it cost. They wanted to pretend we did not exist. His voice grew stronger. But we did exist. We endured. We survived. And we learned. Every year of labor taught us something. Every injury made us stronger. Every loss made us more determined. War broke our bodies. Labor tried to break our spirits. But both failed. Because we are human, and that means something. The crowd erupted in applause. Humans cheered. Even some aliens joined in. Kyung stepped back and gestured for Hana to come forward. Hana walked to the podium on shaking legs. She looked out at all the faces watching her. 2 years ago, she had been a frightened woman sent to marry a stranger. Now she was standing here speaking for her entire species. When I was sent to marry Thexmal, she began, I thought my life was over. I thought I would spend my days as a symbol, a tool, a thing without purpose. I was wrong. She thought about that day on Meridian Point, the moment Tay had whispered to her, the moment everything changed. An old man told me something at my wedding, Hana said. He said war and labor did this to me. I did not understand what he meant at the time. But I do now. She looked at Tay and the crowd. He nodded. War and labor were meant to destroy us, Hana continued. The Confederation thought they could use our desperation. They thought they could work us until we forgot who we were. They were wrong. War and labor did not destroy us. They revealed us. They showed what humanity truly is. She held up her hand, gesturing at all the humans in the garden. We are survivors. We are adapters. We are people who endure impossible odds and come out stronger. Give us the worst conditions and we will find a way to thrive. Try to break us and we will learn from every crack. Try to hide us and we will whisper in the darkness until everyone hears. The crowd was silent now, listening intently. The Confederation learned this the hard way, Hana said. They tried to use us as tools. Instead, they created something they should have feared. They created a generation of humans who understand their technology better than they do, who survived their worst conditions, who built their cities and ships and systems. We are everywhere now, in every corner of the Confederation, and we remember. She softened her tone, but we are not here for revenge. We are here for justice. We are here to make sure this never happens again, to any species. The Human Accord Commission will watch. We will investigate. We will protect the vulnerable, because we know what it is like to be used and forgotten. She looked at Kyung and the other whispers. My friends here, the ones who endured 50 years of labor, they taught me something important. They taught me that strength is not about never breaking. It is about continuing even after you break. It is about taking pain and turning it into purpose. Hana's voice grew quiet but firm. So yes, war and labor did this to us. They made us hard and strong and unbreakable. They taught us skills we never wanted to learn. They gave us experiences we never wanted to have. But they also gave us something else. They gave us the absolute certainty that we will never let this happen again. She raised her voice to a shout. We are human! And that means we survive. We endure, we remember, and we make sure that our suffering means something. The garden exploded with noise. People cheered and cried. Humans embraced each other. Even aliens who had come to witness looked moved. Later, after the ceremony, after the speeches and celebrations, Hana stood alone at the memorial wall again. Day approached her slowly. The old man looked peaceful for the first time since she had met him. You did well, he said. We all did well, Hana replied. Every human who suffered. Every person who spoke up. Every member of the Whispers who refused to give up. This is their victory, not mine. It is everyone's victory, Day said. But you helped make it possible. You could have stayed comfortable. You could have ignored what you learned. But you did not. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the sun set over the memorial garden. The stone walls glowed golden in the fading light. Names of the dead shone like stars. What do you think they would say? Hana asked quietly. The ones who died. The ones who never saw this day. What would they think of what we have done? Day considered the question carefully. I think they would say it was worth it. Not the suffering itself. That should never have happened. But the result. The change. The fact that humanity is now free and strong and standing as equals in the Confederation. Yes, I think they would say their sacrifice was not wasted. Hana hoped he was right. She would spend the rest of her life trying to make sure he was right. The Commission would investigate every corner of the Confederation. They would find others who were being exploited.